I'm Jessica Peresta, host of the Elementary Music Teacher Podcast, a part of the Education Podcast Network. Shows on the network are individually owned and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other interesting education podcasts at edupodcastnetwork.com.
We're here, folks. This is the Hitech Podcast. This is one of your two hosts, William Illingworth, joined by my co-host up there.
I'm here. I am here. My name is Josh, and I am pretending to drum to the song. That's it.
Well,
that's all you got.
You're at least capable of doing that. I would just hit the hi-hat up here the whole time.
No, not where the hi-hat is. That is incorrect. In case you're just listening on audio and you're not watching the video, Will, when he plays a hi-hat on a drum set, plays above his head. That's not where it is. In case anybody was curious.
It's up there. Correct. It's high. It's the high hat. It's above the head.
Yeah.
Josh and I have known each other for like 12 years, and I'm pretty sure I've used that joke all 12 years
so
that
much.
We've known each other.
That's actually why we're called the Hitech Podcast. It has nothing to do with like the whole higher education podcast.
It's the hi-hat, high-tech.
It's all about the hi-hat. That's what it's been about this entire time.
Yeah. Josh is an actually good drummer. He is capable. He is toured. He's a bitch. Oh, shush! Don't be modest, you goofball. And I'm just a goofball. So when I'm the one pretending to hit the hi-hat, please know I'm wrong. But it's still a fun joke. I like to tease it.
Yeah, that's a good time. Yeah.
We're back, folks. Another week, another episode. Surprise! We're going to talk about AI. Who'd have thought?
What?
We'll get into
AI in education. That's not popular at all. Nobody wants to talk about it. AI is like nothing.
Talking about that.
Nobody even knows what it is. What is AI?
No, but I thought I'm gonna do a quick softball, Josh. We can spend a few minutes on this, but what's a game you've been playing? Like we used to ask each other questions all the time.
Yeah, we did. We used to ask each other questions.
We gotta stop. What's a game you've been playing?
We assumed. Did you guys know we like to play video games? In case anybody was curious, that's the thing that Will and I do. Together often. Sometimes, separately, often. So yeah, I just finished Cyberpunk 2077. Okay,
that's right.
For those of you who don't know, Will and I play mostly on our PCs. So I just finished that, which was great. It was kind of a depressing ending, a little bit. I don't know. It was fine. I don't know what I expected. But the game
that won't have any multiplayer.
It's also it's just a role, RPG. So it's a lot of fun. And now I just started the Hogwarts Legacy game again.
That's right.
I was falling off that game, so I went to play that, even though I almost started playing Baldur's Gate 3 again. That was a long answer to this entire question, but
for your second or third time.
Yeah, like it came close. Honestly, as I'm talking about it now, I'm kind of like, oh man, I kind of wish I was playing Baldur's Gate 3.
So after this, we'll just stay on Discord, talk, and both play Baldur's Gate.
Yeah, I mean, we do a game running.
That's right. I still haven't gotten very far with it. Yeah.
Anyway, what about you, man? What have you? I know the answer to this question already. Yeah, but what have you been? What have you been playing?
I own Baldur's Gate 3. I've played probably like 2 or 4 hours of it. I've played a couple of the shooters, Fortnite, whatever. But once I finally played Hades last year for the first time, I pretty much haven't touched anything else with any considerable amount of time. And then until yesterday. When a new game dropped, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, new game! I'm gonna do," which the new game happens to be Hades too. So yeah. I just moved. I got all of the achievements in Hades. There's plenty of things still to do in the game, so I might go, perfect that over time. But Hades 2, it's early access, so it's not like a full real release, and it's alpha. So there's tons of stuff that will going to change. But yeah, I just jumped into that. So that's us nerds, right? Like.
Yeah,
we do tech and we do video games all the time. That I do that stuff on my Steam Deck. I've mostly been playing on my Steam Deck recently, as opposed to PC. But
yeah, when I got the new computer, I've been playing my Steam Deck less, just because everything looks really nice on my new computer. So
that'll do it.
It's really rough. It's hard. Anyway, that's fun and that's good stuff. And maybe we'll do a high gaming, but I feel like that's a different vibe.
Let's
podcast,
try a different
probably.
name. We'll workshop that, and we'll come
that's
back.
That's in the idea board, not the full.
The board that's high, the high board, the board that's up here.
Yeah, it's up there. Anyway, we're of course going to talk about AI again. Will and I have been trying to think here about what we wanted to talk about on this episode. We've been trying to fit in we've been doing a lot of interviews, but as we've previewed a little bit, the Hitech Podcast is coming up on a change soon. So we've been kind of in this weird place. We've been trying to figure out what we want to talk about in a couple of these episodes we've been filling in, and we wanted to just be the two of us. So I'll give a little bit of the background behind why this conversation is coming up again. Well, one, because AI is all anybody ever wants to talk about anymore.
I use it every week.
I do use it a lot. But there's mixed feelings amongst a lot of people about it and how it uses up, and it's especially in the case of like teaching and learning and even learning and development. There's a lot of conversation around with AI about plagiarism, and we have not talked about that much on the Hitech Podcast because we kind of got tired of the initial reaction being everybody will plagiarize. But they weren't wrong. I mean, AI plagiarism has gone up significantly in the past, especially I think the last the spring. I mean, it was happening, of course, but I've been noticing it skyrocketing in even in my current situation in higher education, like faculty and stuff. It is happening a lot. They're having to deal with it. And there's this tool that Will and I have talked about on the Hitech Podcast before, and we have feelings mostly strong.
Strong
about it. And I'm killing time while I try to find the episode because I forget what the episode number was.
You kill, you hunt, you find. But I'll also say, go ahead.
Episode 63.
63,
Academic integrity. We did talk about academic integrity and don't turn it in. But this was before AI was blowing up. So
it's true.
This is original. Before that.
We've never really been fans of Turnitin and similar detection platforms. I think Grammarly had my attention for a long time because Grammarly hadn't gotten into the correction side of things. It was more. I'm not actually. I might be conflating this. Does Grammarly have an education side now? I think that they do.
Yeah,
I think that you can integrate them and use them at schools and stuff. I love Grammarly for working on your own writing. I don't like using tools like Grammarly to police other people's writing, and that's what Turnitin was always for. And some of their competitors, from the get-go, it's about policing the students' work as opposed to providing the students a tool that they can use to learn something.
Yeah, I would agree.
I think that that's a big opportunity. We'd love to see tools that teach students and help students as opposed to just give them a bad mark when they do something bad. Don't want them to do the bad things, but one of the things I think definitely relates to why there's a pickup, Josh, is we have ChatGPT now since 2021, right? Holy smokes. But everybody's gotten theirs out too. Microsoft's got theirs out. Google's got theirs out, Gemini or whatever that's called. There's competitors hitting the market. So Bard. It's before it was both an information access point. People had to know ChatGPT existed, which was, it was not hard to miss, right? But you had to know it was, and then someone, you had to have the interest to try. I know my, certain family members, certain people in my life who just haven't used AI yet because they don't want to. But students, because there's now so many tools available to them to try, and so many more people have tried. So now the peers are saying it's just an influx. It's everywhere and everyone's trying it. It's everyone's jumping off the bridge. It's the famous kind of joke from our parents. If your friend jumped off the bridge, would you? Well, everybody's
is the bridge on fire? Do they have a good reason for jumping up? I was a sarcastic child.
Cruise there?
Is
Tom Cruise there with a parachute?
Yeah, I don't know. It depends on what's happening on the bridge. I can't just give that answer.
Right.
No, yeah, and so what sparked us to talk about this again is actually ironically an article that had just come out on April 29th from the Times Higher Education, titled "Is it time to turn Turnitin?" Which of course immediately catches my attention because I already have a bias to not liking Turnitin, I will admit. But it already catches my attention. And Will and I are looking through the article, and I think what really I think the premise, right, of this article and a lot of the conversations I've been hearing lately. And for me, I think it hits home because a little background, right? If I had $1 in the last semester, every time a faculty member is like, are we going to get Turnitin? Because I can't check AI plagiarism. And actually, there was a distinct moment a faculty member asked me and Justin when we were in a meeting together. Justin and I rarely say the same thing at the exact same time. It doesn't really happen very often. And we both responded to that question, and it almost said the exact same thing, which was, well, I mean, Turnitin doesn't either. Like that was that was the joke, right? And now obviously Turnitin's getting a lot of flack because they're the biggest, like I would say, the big name in plagiarism checking and tracking. And don't get me wrong, I have problems with Turnitin. There is some stuff that Turnitin does well and does make it easier for faculty to check. But this article is kind of bringing up the big kind of red flag, which is Turnitin was really good at checking old school plagiarism. But like new world where AI exists, is Turnitin successful? And specifically, I've been skeptical of this because I personally don't believe AI checkers are accurate enough yet to be something we bank on. And most of the people in the AI world, I think, are pushing that AI checkers aren't going to really be an effective thing long term. Because it's difficult to like, it's not like when AI types, it leaves behind a note afterwards that says, I am AI, you know, like that's not like a,
hey, to your point on that, if I can just kind of rewind back, let's get some foundational point in mind. Like what would let's talk about it. What would an AI detector be doing? Like you just said, AI, I could say there's probably some ways that AI could leave a trace, but really, if I take text out of ChatGPT and paste it into some other platform, there's no return address, there's no DNA, there's no scientific analysis of the actual origin of the text. It doesn't come with HTML. There's no markup on it that says this text has metadata. It's from a different location, right? I'm throwing around a bunch of terminology, but like, let me give you a quick example. If you download, if you have an audio file on your computer, and you look at that audio file and it says audio file clip 1.mp3, that's not the only file data that's there on that file, right? The name is not the only piece of information that's tracked on that file. If you go into the properties of your file, it's going to have things like the author, when it was made, potentially, if this information is put on it. There's literally called metadata on the file, and you can track who made it, when, where. You know, if it's music, the genre of the music, what album it's on. There's tons of metadata like that on files. That doesn't happen with text. So what the AI detectors are doing with text is trying to predict. It's a statistical analysis of how much of the content seems to be AI generated. It's just statistics. It's like, I could write something that it could say is written by AI. Now, the likelihood of me writing something that sounds very like AI is very low because I'm using kind of my own brain to generate words in flow. When AI writes something, it is using already written content all across the internet to generate something quote unquote new. So AI may be looking at that, and it's more about plagiarism. Like you could say like, oh, I've seen this sentence before, this half sentence, this third of a sentence. It's measuring all those things in a paper and saying, okay, based on how many things here seem to be unoriginal, you are likely to have used AI. I don't know if you have any more information on it or anything, but that's my background with what these things are doing.
Generally, the research I've done into them is that they're looking at like predictive patterns when they're reading text, right? Like, so like, to Will's point, human written content, mainly based out of a person's brain and what they're writing. It's like, while we have patterns, they're different, right? And on the other hand, like AI mainly uses repetitive words and phrases, and you'll see that repetition. Like, for instance, I've used AI a bunch of times. The joke in our office and between Will and I is Notion AI, which is the one that I use probably the most. I mean, I use ChatGPT for some other stuff. But like Notion AI is the one I use just on a regular basis for like text editing and stuff, and idea generation and template creation, stuff like that. But there's a friendly prompt in Notion AI. It literally just says make it more friendly. So I call it my friendly filter because I have a tendency to kind of just write bluntly when I'm writing, especially if I'm annoyed. And so I
No.
so I often will like I'll reread my text and try to fix things. And I can on my own, but like sometimes it's just a little quicker for me just to highlight, hit rewrite friendly. I reread it to make sure it didn't add weird words like yeehaw. It does do that sometimes. And then I do it. But like I've noticed as I've been using AI more and more, it will like use similar patterns and phrases, right? Like if it's saying like, you know, like I like to cook and I cook this, and like cook will show up multiple times in the sentence. Here's the problem, though, with AI detectors. There is an assumption that humans don't do that. That's incorrect. Like, humans have patterns. Now, they're not the same as AI, but it's not like a human's like, if they're carefully reading their text, they'll go, I used cook 12 times. I probably shouldn't do that. But have you met students and learners? Like, that doesn't happen.
These are the kids that we're saying are cheating using ChatGPT because they're too lazy to write the paper in the first place. You're going to say
if I don't proofread my stuff, do you know how many times I accidentally use the word also? Like it happens a lot. Like it's so I think that's in of itself is the problem. I think a lot of times when I'm talking to faculty or even people in learning and development who are making courses, like if you're not aware of how it works, and again, Will and I are not experts, so I'm sure there's stuff we're missing in this conversation, some too. If you know other stuff you want to share with us, hit us up at inbox at hitechpod.us or one of the socials, and we'd be happy to talk to you about it and maybe have you on the podcast. But from what Will and I have done, the research we dug into, and the AI we've been using at this point, like part of the problem is I think faculty, teachers, learning developers, they don't know much about it. They think that I do think some think that there's like a little pattern or code that the detector's looking for. That's not all it's doing is it's guessing. Like if I'm just going to put an analogy here for a second, AI detectors are like the weathermen of technology today. Okay. They're like, it's probably AI. It's probably going to rain, but like, I don't know.
They can get it wrong.
Like, and the article gets into this a little bit. I think some interesting data out of this article, right? So the premise is they're asking, like, you know, can AI detectors work? Because obviously Turnitin and a lot of other ones have AI detectors. But then also kind of criticizing, like, is this type of plagiarism checking really going to work in a new age of where AI is so easily accessible and usable? But here's the thing I find incredibly interesting. Okay, so they did a study on AI detectors. And I want to find this data here for a second. First, let's talk about this. Turnitin's AI detector, and I remember this when it first came out, said it had a 1% false positive rate. But like in a hot sec in 2023, Turnitin goes, never mind. It's a 4% false positive rate. Now, like that's still not a ton, but like that's like a 3% chance. That's out of everything they've done. That's a lot of papers that are not correct. Yeah. And then they did a study where they looked at 14 different AI detectors, and 5 of the 14 were only 50% accurate or worse. And then several of them missed a handful of papers. Like the point being, none of them are perfect. Now, I'm not sure we're asking them to be perfect, but honestly, like Will and I have talked about in the tech world before, like people are looking for these detectors like Turnitins or others, I think, to be the silver bullet. Like if I just have one of these, it will be easier to detect AI plagiarism. I guess, but to me, it just makes the water muddier. Like it's like, you know what I mean? I don't, it's kind of like if you're trying to look for something in a muddy pond and somebody comes along and says, I can help you find it, but I'm like 50% accurate. You still can't see in the pond, and that person puts his head in the pond. This is a weird analogy if I'm going to run with it. Puts his head in the pond, comes back out and goes, I think I saw something. Like, did that make it easier? Like, I don't like.
Well,
I don't know.
And that brings up like just images for me of Gollum in the marshes, pulling Frodo up out of the marshes as he tried to go down into the spirits. But the next line on that one paragraph you're just looking at is detectors are not all equal, but the best are better than faculty. And I'm like, yes. Let me put it this way, though. The best are better than faculty because you can click and it'll do the analysis statistically in seconds. Whether or not they're accurate in that moment is not necessarily is the issue. Are they accurate at doing that? And then you penalize the student claims that they did not do it. Now you're in an academic integrity battle. 3 months later, the student's getting an F, and you've burnt through institution resources. I mean, I know what this is like. If the student contests, it's a couple months of a process. Your provost gets involved, paperwork signed, signatures are everywhere. Everybody's pissed at each other. The student's not participating in the class anymore. It's like it's litigious. The process of nailing that student to the wall for the cheating is a litigious process. It's not fun. It's not easy. On the other side, if the faculty member is the one reading the papers, as they should be, and the one identifying whether or not the content is as good or not to what the prompt is, as they should be the ones, the experts in their field, as they should be, who could identify if it's smoke and mirrors or something legitimately written. I think it's clear when someone writes genuine thought. If you're looking at an AI paper, I was working with GPT last week. I was having it help me with some coding. I told it 3 times that it did not accomplish the task that I wanted. It apologized and gave me the same content back each time. It didn't change the script at all. 3 times. I was like, GPT, that didn't work. Like, I needed to do this. Oh, I'm so sorry. Here you go. And it gave me the same code. This thing is not smart, folks. Okay. It's not writing, fantastic narratives. It's not writing excellent papers. If it's writing something that you're reading as a faculty member and you're concerned whether or not it's accurate, like, you're the one that needs to take the time to read it. Like, I think it might be a little bit on the faculty to say, like, if you can't sniff it out, on the other side, then the kid did great. The student did so well with their prompting that if they made a legitimate paper that you can't identify, well done to the kid. I'm not going to point fingers at faculty. Well done to the kid. They figured it out. They used the tool to its best, because I have not seen one thing generated by AI that I couldn't detect. I'm not, it's pretty
that of. You know what I mean? The difficulty is you and I are often working with AI where we're using it, in many ways, and so we know it's not our writing or each other's writing, or you know what I mean? Like that can be a little different. I will say on the other side too, I think that works, and I agree with you. That's usually my response, right? But I hear from faculty, and I do agree with this, is that's great, but like students aren't great writers either. So how do you tell the difference between AI and between
bad
the
and
human that is just as bad? That's a reality, right? Like it's not it's not that easy, right? Like and I point that out because Will, for this is, it's
a good point,
in the most respectful way. You are a much better writer than me, so for you, I think that pops out pretty clearly. But some places it's I don't know. It's a tough battle, because it's I think my problem and where I come down to with AI detectors is you can make that comment that an AI detector is better than a faculty member. But the problem is I see people looking at these tools like it's the definitive silver bullet. It's not about resourcing me to make it easier. It's about, at the end of the day, I think it's about, can I look to something else to tell me that this is AI so I can be confident?
Right.
That's what this is about, is can I be confident that it is AI? It may be more confident, but it's it's
still just guessing. It's a confident
guess. We're going to the person we're trying to detect to tell us if they're there. That's what we're doing. And
hey AI, can you see
bad at writing? Yeah.
Okay, now I gotta ask GPT if it can see itself. I'm curious.
Oh yeah, that gets weird. Oh man, existential questions really take it for a loop, It goes down a road. So the more interesting thing too with Turnitin is just a side note, this really doesn't get into our topic, but I was telling this with Will. Like, I just found out recently, Turnitin is removing their AI detector from their base package for institutions. Like, so if you want an argument to get rid of Turnitin even more, there you go. The thing that people are looking for, they're basically not selling it with the base package anymore. Which, like, this is my hot take for a second. But like, could there be any worse of a money grab in the world? Like we're worried about AI plagiarism. You're our plagiarism software, and it's like, but we built this thing, and now you have to pay separate for it. Educational institutions. Come on. So anyway, the article itself that we kind of prompted us to talk about this, it does get into kind of like low effort cheating interventions. Like, instead of looking for detectors, instead of looking for this, we should be looking to, and I wouldn't even say interventions, but like prevent it as well. Like, we know a lot of plagiarism, in my opinion, comes from like poor planning, and usually people not just deciding they're going to plagiarize from the beginning. It's usually like they need to get this paper done, they're not done with it. So I think setting up a lot of the space to try to, like, we need to talk more about academic integrity. This isn't just about like a hard rule that I want you to do your work. It's about like, what does integrity mean in academics and what we're doing. I think is what we're looking at. They suggest this idea of even allowing like withdrawal submissions sometimes when students get up to the last second. I have some mixed feelings about the stuff that they suggest. I feel like some of it works, some of it might not.
The withdrawal one is like they align that with a 0. There's like it's a penalty. It's a not get caught for cheating, but still take a 0 on the grade penalty. You know, it's like, hey, I'm not going to give you an ethical slap, but you're still going to get a 0. These are moments where I really wish there was more of an awareness of and integration of the universal design for learning principle of forgiveness, the ability to attempt and fail and try again. Too many of our evaluations are high stakes in the first place. You know, a paper itself doesn't have to be, you know, end all be all. It, you know, oftentimes papers are 30%, 60% of a grade or something like that, the total course grade. Like, that's why students turn to cheating for something like a paper, because it's so much of their actual course grade that if they fail it, they can fail the course, you know?
Yeah.
Let's just take some of those stakes away. It can still be worth 60% of the course, but let them do it 2 or 3 times or work on it iteratively throughout the entire. Like, there's so many options for the teaching and the learning process before we get to cheating that we haven't even really tested enough of them to say that we have to get the AI police involved. You know, like it's like we could use some really good community learning development elements in our classrooms here, improve the practices for both sides, the teaching and the learning side, and prevent paying for the AI police, B, dealing with the AI police, C, dealing with the litigious and bureaucratic response to academic integrity, and, you know, et cetera, et cetera. Like, I think that there's so much we can do before this ever gets to the problem. And I don't even have to say we need to write better assignments. Like, that can be said too. There's assignments that can change this, but just keep your assignments. Let the students do it twice. Let them resubmit once. That is alone something that reduces the stakes of the assignment and will improve, hopefully, you know, the student's response to it. There's so many things you can do for this. They have got a list of 6 things. I think that they're all pretty useful. I like the idea that one of them was just normalize help, like point out the writing center, point out that AI can be an assistant. You can use AI to help you write something like Josh did. Write something and then say, make this sound more academic. Help me with my adjectives. Do I have run-on sentences? You can ask GPT these things and they'll help you with those issues. And then it's not like the students are stealing the work and putting it in word for word. They're just improving their own writing. I'm okay with that. Let's do it.
Yeah. I would agree. And again, I think the other issue that comes up here that I usually ask people, we still don't have a solid answer for this, is like, where do we draw the line at usage? I feel like the the anticipation is like, well, if they used AI, it's, it's wrong. And it's like, what, but where, like, at what level do we stop that? You know what I mean? Like, it is a tool that we're going to end up using. I really do think it will be. And there's a lot of ethical concerns and things to think through with AI. And that's a different podcast episode probably in of itself that we could talk about. But it is a tool that people are going to be using in some way at some point. I don't think it's going away. I'm very skeptical about at what level it's going to be great or not. There are definitely people banking on AI will change everything. And I'm kind of like,
right.
It's not a panacea. Around for a while and he didn't change everything. So, I don't know.
if AI can come up with regenerative energy, that'd be great. If we can get Tony Stark's, perfect energy source out of AI, huzzah. But in the meantime, people are using it to write jokes and fix websites. Like, that's what people are using this thing for.
Like it's a tool that's out there. Like, how where are we drawing those lines? I think that's my other question, right? Is like, and that's the problem. Even if AI detectors could find AI, can AI detectors go, well, this student didn't use AI in this way? No, that's where the difficulty lies. So I think this has to come down to like what Will is talking about. For now, it's still about the tactics we employ, the types of activities that we do, and adapting to what we're dealing with and finding ways to make it clear for students what the line is and what it isn't, and helping them understand and accepting the reality that plagiarism existed before this, and we are never going to get rid of all that. I'm not saying that we should just accept it, but like the reality is like, man, guys, I made it through high school with Spark Notes. Okay, like it happens, like, and I think we have to. I think we have to accept our own limitedness sometimes in this. I'm not sure we're going to have a perfect solution for this, but we need to figure out some stuff. So, yeah, that's my take. That's where I'm at with this.
I did ask GPT if it can see itself, and it said, I don't have the capacity to see or perceive the world in any visual sense. I process and generate text based on the input I receive. So in a way, I can see through the information and conversations you share with me.
Okay. No, right. I don't like that at all. That's
right,
too
GPT. It sees through itself. So then I said, well, what do you see about yourself? And it starts obfuscating. It can't get the sense for like what I'm trying to do. It's like, I don't have personal experiences
until it gets actual eyes.
Yeah.
Until it goes Terminator.
Oh, where are your eyes?
Oh boy, these are questions I don't want to ask. AI gets creepy,
Oh, metaphorically speaking, you could say my eyes are in the algorithms and data structures that enable me to understand and respond to your questions.
Nope, I don't like that. This is why I don't like asking these things metaphorical questions. Sometimes it answers too good, and I don't like it. I don't want it to answer that way. It's fine. It's all great. On that note, we are talking about, I don't have a great transition. I don't know. I was going to try to figure out something with Lucid, and it was going to be great. And it was going to be,
well, GPT is having lucid dreams right now as I ask it questions. So
so there you go. Something like that. The app that we want to talk about, this app is not new. Okay. So we're not revolutionizing anything. We just haven't really talked about them before on the podcast. We wanted to talk a little bit about the Lucid Spark and the Lucid Chart kind of package as a tool. If you're not aware of it, there is a great tool through, I don't know if they just call themselves Lucid at this point. I don't really know what their actual name
they have a parent company that is called Lucid, and then they have their products, Lucid Chart, Lucid Spark, and Lucid Scale.
Yeah.
So Lucid is the parent company. Mm-hmm. Lucid Spark is probably what we're talking about today primarily, but Chart and Spark are both relevant.
Yeah, Lucid's the company. Lucid Spark is the app that Lucid Chart is the app that Will and I are originally aware of. That's a bit older. That's their like charting tool. But a little while ago, they released Lucid Spark, which is their whiteboarding tool. I'll just call it Lucid Miro. I don't know if I can say that. I don't know. We talked about Miro a lot on the podcast, which is a whiteboarding app that Will and I are huge fans of. And recently I started looking at Lucid Spark because Canvas has made like a deal with Lucid, and you're going to get access to Lucid Spark and Chart through Canvas if you use the LMS Canvas. And so we were digging into it because it's been a while since our teams looked at it. So we decided to play with it. I sort of decided to use it a bit for some stuff. And it's actually really cool. It is very similar to Miro, but it's a solid whiteboarding tool. And as Will and I have talked about a lot, whiteboarding tools have moved from just like a fun graphing tool to like there's some serious collaboration you can do as an instructor in or as a learner in Lucid chart. I think there's a lot of stuff that you can do in it and map out. It ends up becoming kind of a cool online environment to do work in with students, right? So just like Miro does, they have collaboration tools, they have charting tools in here that you can leverage. They have presenting tools. It's pretty cool. Like you can create a lot of content in here. For example, we're gonna do it. I'm gonna share because we have not shared our screen before.
He's going rogue.
We're gonna get rogue here.
Before.
So yeah, we've done it once before. If you're listening through audio, maybe now's the time to stop doing that, and check out the video.
Check us out on YouTube.
So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna share our screen here. So this is a blank board in Lucidspark. So you can do a bunch of stuff in here that's super cool. Like zooming. No, I'm just joking. So you can add like sticky notes, stuff in here, but I want to specifically highlight something. So I've used Miro to do this a lot, but you'd use Lucidspark as well. I started as a teacher to leverage when I was doing stuff online, leverage whiteboards in this way. They have kind of a frame tool that you can do to kind of create environments in your board. And I've done some presentations and stuff on this before. But what's really fun to do with that is you can kind of set up something like this. I'm probably zoomed in a little bit too much, so let's stop that. So you kind of create this frame that you want to put stuff into. And I can throw different content in there. For now, I'm just going to throw some shapes because I don't have some great content. Let's just, let's hear.
Oh, yeah. The shape life. I'm here for it,
Yeah, I know what I'm going to do here. Let's see if I can, where's their drawing tool?
And the good thing about the frames, folks, is like when you're working with a physical whiteboard, you have a physical amount of real estate, right? It is your frame. And so you might have students work on different whiteboards to put different ideas together, or you might section out a whiteboard. So like, hey, write pros on the left half, write cons on the right half, right? When you're dealing with physical whiteboards, framing is something you're already doing. You're just not doing it. You don't have to make a frame, quote unquote, for a real whiteboard. You just tell the students how to use the real estate, the physical space you have. Here in the digital world, these frames help set up those spaces for people to work on, look at things specifically, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, so like I'm setting up different frames I can do for stuff. So so like I might have like an activity or presentation over here that I'm doing. I have that available. This in case anybody's watching. This is my interpretation of what Will's face looks like. And so well,
very purple.
Best as I can get with digital drawing, physical
At least
drawing.
I'm happy.
I'm clearly better. But what's really cool about what I like doing with these frames is I can set up different moments of my class, environments, places within my lesson plan in a digital space, and I can hit this little hidden button and hide it from students until I'm ready for them to see it, right? And so I can kind of control their experience as we're going through stuff. One of the other things I love using these frames for is like setting up group activities in the frames, and being able to like put in what, who's going to be doing stuff here. This is Will and Josh's frame. And you end up creating kind of like little whiteboards within the bigger space that you're in, allowing people like using breakout rooms and Zoom or Teams to go out to the breakout rooms, but then you could see what they're doing across the board as they're doing things. And the cool stuff I don't have access to it in the account I'm using right now, but you can make yourself a facilitator. You could end up actually inviting everyone back to you and forcing everyone back to their space. You can even actually set this up where they will follow your cursor around the board. So you can literally control what they're seeing on their screen with the board, right? So like there's some really cool stuff into here that you can do.
The Pied Piper of pedagogy.
The thing I specifically really like about Lucidspark over some of the other tools I've used is you can actually create like slides in here and do like a presentation. So I can hit present like I'm using a slideshow, and that will present that on my board. So the thing that I've really liked about this stuff is that it's so much more, these whiteboards have become less about just like graphing, but more about like centralizing all of your like visual and group activity work in one space. And I think for online activities and group activities, that's super useful as an instructor. It gives me a lot more control over what students are seeing, and I don't have to leave the interface. Like I can upload files in here. I can put stuff in here and show them. I can even throw my PowerPoint in here and like go through it. So I can like throw all this into one spot for those synchronous sessions in a way that a lot of other tools don't allow you to do. So Lucidspark's just another one of the library of tools that I think that can do this, that I've been really impressed with as I've been playing around with it a bit more. And you can even see, you can actually send it to Google Slides if you use Google Slides out of here. So that's pretty bomb. So take that. Anyway, there's our cool fun tool for the day. So you can get access to it at lucid.app is their main website. So you can find that and jump in to get access to the tool. Again, I was specifically showing Lucidspark there. They do have Lucidchart, which is more of a charting tool. I like that. And if you want to do charting, that's great. But I think for like learning online and e-learning, I think blank boards like from Lucidspark are a little bit more useful to me. Those are the things I'm going to kind of really get into.
I used Lucidchart back in like 2016 or 17 for a grad school course. And we used it for wireframing and blueprinting. And so, yeah, like that, it's really good at that. You could probably do that with Spark as well, but Spark is the competitor to the modern whiteboard tool. And since Google Jamboard is closed down, a lot of folks are going to something like Miro or Lucidspark because they really fell in love with these tools during the pandemic. So check out Lucid, the company, Lucidchart, Lucidspark, get in there, start using it, because I think that if you're sad to lose Jamboard, this is a really good replacement functionally, etc.
Yeah, I would agree.
Cool. Pull us home, my friend.
Yeah, real quick, I just want to mention they do have a handful of plans and stuff, like education plans, but their free plan does allow you to use 3 boards with like unlimited stuff inside the board. So you can leverage stuff like that. It's just some of the control tools I was showing and talking about aren't necessarily available in those, but it's only like $8 a month for an individual plan to Lucidchart. And just like Miro, you can invite like a ton of people into it. It's just you can control it, right? So like if you're using it as a faculty member, that is kind of the way you can use it. Anyway, that is Lucidspark and its app. This has been the Hitech Podcast. And I'm not saying the number because we've decided to stop doing that. So I'm not going to do that. But next episode, we are going to be talking to Topia. We have been trying to get this darn episode to happen for so long. We talked about Topia like a long time ago. We were really into this whole like weird space.
We met them at FETC. That was a big movement for us. We had to like talk to some of their folks. We've loved Topia for a long time. It's one of those ones alongside Gather Town that really caught attention during COVID, right? But finally, we'll be getting together with them next episode. We're thrilled to have them on the podcast.
We're excited about that. We talked about them in episode 82. So if you're curious about Topia, now they've done a lot of stuff since then, but you can hear our initial take on episode 82. And that's also a fun episode if you want to listen to it, because we also roast big publishers. So that's a great time. But we've been trying to get Topia on for a little while. So we're super excited. Saw them at FETC. They have some really cool new features that they've been using. And I think there's a lot of cool stuff that Topia can do for any kind of learning experience that we're working on. So you can definitely check it out.
Spoiler alert, but I don't even know yet. I follow one of their co-founders now, who will be speaking to, I think, David. And he posted on LinkedIn this week something to the effect that big changes are coming. So hopefully we're going to hear about that in the interview next week. I think it'll be a timely call.
Yeah, that could be a timely call. Anyway, this has been the Hitech Podcast. Just a reminder, subscribe on Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. That helps us out. We'd love to have you subscribe if you listen to the episode. We like to know that people listen, you know? Will and I would talk about this stuff anyway. It's why we record ourselves, but it's fun to know that people are like listening. You know,
hello, are you there?
Make sure to subscribe on Spotify and YouTube. And if we get 20 more subscribers, Will won't sing like that ever again. So if you can just subscribe.
Savage.
So yeah, again, you can also check us out on socials, Twitter and YouTube at Hitech Podcast. You can also email us, inbox@hitechpod.us. If you want to talk to us, if you listen to this episode and you thought, Will and Josh, you're wrong about those 3 things that you said, don't just think it to yourself.
I hope so, because it sounds delicious.
Email us inbox at hitechpod.us and be polite if you need to. Put it through a friendly AI filter. And then we'd love to have you on the podcast and talk about what we missed or what you'd like to talk about. That is a great way to connect with us, is hit us up there. And also remember, we have a website, hitechpod.us. Every episode has an episode page with content and information about what we've been sharing with you guys. So you have to check that out and be on the lookout. Just like there are new things coming to Topia. I'm not saying this summer there are new things coming to the Hitech Podcast, but I'm saying there are new things coming to the Hitech Podcast. So
That sounded like AI wrote that.
I don't know. Who knows? But there's exciting new stuff. So you want to keep an eye on Twitter and the website and YouTube specifically, because you'll be seeing some stuff popping up over there as well. Anyway, thank you again for joining us for another week as we continue to learn what it looks like to not use Turnitin. To harness technology in the classroom, out of the classroom, in life, whatever it may be. See ya.
See ya.